Hopefully my face doesn't look so shiny. Okay, turn it off. That's all we can afford. What's going on, you guys? Steve here. Let's react to some more DJ content. What is clearly a music industry scam but is normalized so people don't notice? The music industry itself? Honestly, there's so many things in music that are considered normal, but it's very anti-consumer and anti-creator, so that list is very long. I mean, I personally could list a whole bunch of stuff, but we don't have the time for all that. Just rattling off a couple things off the top of my head, I would say booking people based on likes and followers rather than their actual ability. I think it's really weird we push online marketing more than the actual ability to do the job. There's so many people out there who cope and argue about this, but I don't think that's normal. If you apply that logic to industries with real life consequences behind that, it doesn't hold up. For example, would you want an Instagram model as a cardiologist? Probably not. Obviously, doing life-saving operations isn't the same as being a musician or a DJ, but still, in fields like medical, you definitely want people at the helm that know what they're doing. Another scam I would say is artists releasing vinyl pressings of records, but they don't have the full track list. There's so many artists out there that are creating vinyl pressings of their albums, but they continue to work on the projects after the pressings. So the versions that come out on streaming are completely different. They have extra verses. The production might be better or different. You kind of look like a fool if you pay for the vinyl because it's not a complete project. Honestly, I don't think artists should be releasing vinyl of anything until it's a complete project. I think that's a scam. Let's check out the comments. Right off the top, somebody said the Grammy Awards. Yeah, that's a whole conversation. We can make a whole video on that. Spotify, 1000%. Look how many likes there are on this thing. Ticketmaster, 1000%. I've seen some other YouTubers make some really solid videos about the history behind Ticketmaster and how we got here. And yeah, it's honestly insane. This person said DJs buying fake followers. I mean, that's not a scam. That's a symptom of a problem. Like I said before, only valuing musicians based on their follower count and things like that is the scam. It pushes people to artificially bump their numbers like that. So that's not a scam. That's a symptom of an issue. Record labels that do absolutely nothing slash their job badly but still take a cut. I agree. I think it's really weird how the industry has normalized and gaslit musicians into believing we're supposed to do everything by ourselves. And even then, you still might not get taken serious. If you build yourself up as an independent musician, you see a lot of success on your own, you don't need these labels. You're doing the job that they're supposed to do already. All they're going to do is just take a percentage of what you already built. So yeah, by the time these labels and all of these institutions come knocking, you've already done the work. In that regard, it is a scam. What happened to using instruments? Like most songs now completely use computer-generated beats now. Where's the love? That's not a scam. That's just personal preference. If you like listening to songs where they're just strumming on a banjo or playing a harmonica, that's fine. How is that a scam? I think it's really dumb when people make this argument where they're just very anti-modern tech. I'm not for using AI though. I might ask Siri a question here and there, but I don't subscribe to using AI to make music. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with like using serum presets and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, this guy's just being weird. It's not a scam. He's just complaining. Kaylani, she says, DJs, I love you.
TikTok DJs, we gotta have a talk. BPM and key is not interchangeable. Just because something is the same tempo do not mean it always needs to be mixed without changing the key. Because when that other song come in, yes, at the same tempo, but in a different key, it's gonna give nails on a chalkboard. And then, just because it's in a relative key, doesn't mean it's the same key. Also, if that original song has a sweet chord in it, and that chord is not in the song you're mixing it into, that's also gonna give nails on a chalkboard. You can play with BPM, and you can even play with, making the keys the same key if you're willing to compromise the sound of the vocal. But don't just be going all willy-nilly mixing goddamn whatever the Love you.
I don't have a problem with this. Do you guys have a problem with this? I don't have a problem with this. Do you guys have a problem with it? I gave my opinion in a previous video about mashups where I basically said that I don't think you should be hucking any type of song at the wall just because the BPMs match. I stand on that. There are people in the comments who think that I'm just like anti-new DJs or anti-mashup DJs or those people who make TikTok mashups. I don't really care. You can do whatever you want. I'll never tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. But it's not for me. And like she said, some of these combinations do sound nuts, but to each their own. If that's what you want to do, hey, have at it. People will only start liking and sharing your content once you get so popular that you don't actually need them to like and share your content. I mean, when it comes to personal friends and stuff, I said this in the last video, I agree. Even in my own personal experience, there's a good amount of people who followed me for years and they didn't say anything until Marshmello and some of these other big DJs actually showed support for my content and my music. I really need to buckle down and just make a dedicated video about social proof, but it's a thing. Essentially, it's the concept of people not believing you or subscribing to something or participating in a thing until they see other people are participating in said thing. I'm not above it. Taylor Swift has dealt with it. Lady Gaga, John Summit, whoever your favorite artist is, they've dealt with it. The people around them probably didn't support them early on. But when it started clicking, all of a sudden everybody believed in them and, oh, I used to have a science class with, all of a sudden they're so proud of you. Yeah, it's a thing. I don't think it's because people are fake or they like secretly hate you. I think it's just a subconscious thing where people just want results. Plain and simple. Nobody wants to root for the guy who just lost the NBA Finals. False. People share content that does something for them. I said cope, kind of being petty because he said false. Social proof is real and they've done psych studies on it for decades. In my experience, some people I know didn't express support until the stuff I always posted got love from strangers and hyper-successful musicians. Most don't like content because it tugs on heartstrings. They follow the herd. That's essentially what I just said, and I stand on that. I don't think people realize how brainwashed they are by social media. Most people think they're so special and they're so independent and they're so different, but most people are just following what other people do. From the slang we use, to the clothes we wear, to the things we eat. Most of the things we do on a daily basis, we've been told to do them by somebody else. Long story long, don't get discouraged if the people in your life aren't supporting your content, supporting your music, or whatever you have going on. It doesn't always mean what you do is bad. This meme says I'm going to sleep early today. No, that's facts. That is facts. This is literally me when I'm working on music. I could be working on a song from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and I'll finally stop. I'll get to a point where it's like, okay, this is in a cool state. I've been working on this all day. I need to chill. And then an hour and a half later, I'm back at it until like 2 in the morning. So yeah, that's funny. It's funny because it's true. You guys let me know in the comments, like if you get that burst of inspiration and you just can't let it go. What's the worst DJ advice you've ever heard? The worst DJ advice I've ever heard wasn't expressed to me. It was told to somebody else that I know. Essentially, there was a middle-aged DJ. He uses control vinyl. And he told one of my friends who was very new to DJing that you don't need to mix. He told my friend that you could just throw in a track, you can just hit a cue point at any given moment and it doesn't matter, just pull the faders up and down. And that's crazy to me. Unfortunately, this individual followed his advice and never really got great transitions. Every time they mixed, it would sound like two cars in traffic just blasting completely different songs. Honestly, I think it's kind of a bummer. Looking back at it now, I think he was just trying to get my friend to be a bad DJ and like not book gigs and stuff because he was actively trying to like get around the scene himself. Really bad advice. There's a time and place for just throwing in a track, hitting play, pressing the hot cue or whatever, but please, dear God, learn how to mix. There's so many new DJs out there that don't practice. They just buy a controller and they start running for all the bars and clubs trying to get booked. Please practice.
You should never, ever, ever believe that talent alone will make you successful in the music industry. But wait, isn't it all about the music? Welcome to Confessions of a DJ, Episode 1. You see, I used to think that the music industry was more of like a giant talent show, where the most creative and the most talented musicians would rise to the top and win the grand prize. So I thought if I focused all of my efforts on making better music, then success would absolutely follow. Well, it turns out that I was dead wrong. Because the music industry doesn't reward the most creative. It rewards the most profitable. It's crazy, but I wasted years trying to impress agents, labels, and managers. But in the end, it really didn't matter how good or how well produced the music was. The only thing that mattered was how marketable I was. And that's when I realized that the music business is more about business than it is about music. So if you only focus on creative efforts and ignore the business side of the industry, then you will always end up building out someone else's dream, which is why I would tell my younger self,
man, that is a fantastic video. Just from the actual content of what he was saying and just from a production standpoint, that is an amazing video. It is so true. That was exactly my problem maneuvering the industry for the longest time. I started DJing in the early 2000s before the EDM craze, before Instagram and TikTok and all this social media stuff. It wasn't a thing back then. Anyways, back then it was all about if you knew how to mix and if your name was ringing in the scene, like if you were playing here, if you were playing there, if you were playing here. If you didn't play at certain places around town, other bars and clubs wouldn't book you. There was no Instagram to say, oh, he's got 20,000 followers. Screw it. He doesn't know how to mix, but let's just get him in. That wasn't a thing. So if you didn't know what you were doing, you weren't getting the gig. So early on, I worked on my skills. I tried to get my mixing up. Once I got into college and I was old enough to get into the bars and clubs, then I started getting some opportunities, and I'm very grateful for those early shots because it was pretty tough early on. I wasn't working at the local radio stations. My name wasn't ringing around the bars and clubs, so a lot of people were like, who's this college kid? Like, I was the youngest DJ in my scene for a long time. Now it's kind of crazy because a lot of these bars and clubs prey on these young, naive college kids. Anyways, after the pandemic, the game completely switched. If you don't have numbers, if you don't have a big following, a lot of these places don't care. There were even places where I had residencies and I played on a weekly basis that started tripping on my follower count and how often I post and this and that. It was a tough pill for me to swallow when the industry started shifting to being about online metrics rather than merit and your ability. I encourage all of you to invest more into your branding, into your social media, as well as the music side of things. We live in a time where you can make the best song ever. People don't care if you have 1,000 followers. I can't say it enough. This is an amazing video, super insightful, very useful. I guess that's all I got for this one. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.